Welcome back to my series covering the best weapons in Red Dead Redemption 2 and how you can get them both early and free. I've already looked at sidearms, shotguns and repeaters in the past, all of which I'll link in the description, but today we're going to be looking at rifles. If you find any of the tips and tricks to be useful, then please help the video to be seen by more people by tapping the like button down below. First up, we're going to be looking at the bolt action, which is easily my favourite rifle in the entire game. It might not win any stat competitions, but it's just a solid all-rounder with decent damage, great accuracy, and the fastest reload speed when compared to all other rifles on the market. Traditionally, it's obtained during the mission Preaching Forgiveness as you went in Chapter 3, where you'll be given a free bolt action rifle, which also then unlocks in gunsmiths as well. But I know myself and a lot of you legends out there like to stay on Chapter 2 as long as possible, and hey, who can blame ya? Leaving that rat to rot in jail while avoiding Thomas Downs at all costs is often my go-to strat as well. So if you fit that bill and you'd like to grab it early on in Chapter 2, you can do so by starting up the First Shall Be Last mission, where the gang rescues old mate Sean from the grimy clutches of some local bounty hunters. When you roll up on the first set of bounty hunters, carefully being distracted by Trelawney's strange display of commitment to the cause, you can go ahead and take them out as instructed. But the very next two bounty hunters that appear just a little bit further up the hill are the ones that you're gonna need to focus on. When you see these two guys positioned right here, you'll need to make sure that you take out the guy on the left first, as he's the one holding the bolt action. For whatever reason, if he gets spooked by you shooting the other guy, he'll put away his rifle and replace it with a carbine repeater, permanently screwing your chances and forcing you to reload the checkpoint. Once you've taken care of the guy on the left, promptly take out the guy on the right and move forward to collect your prize. If you've done it correctly, you'll see a shiny new bolt action rifle laying on the ground, so be sure to go ahead and pick it up, where your existing gun will be returned to your horse. The only problem is it comes with a very limited supply of ammunition, but if you take it to your nearest gunsmith, you'll not only be able to stock up on ammo, but you can also modify it with all the usual upgrades. Overall, it's an outstanding rifle. It's got good ammo capacity, top-notch firing range, and will easily last you throughout your entire playthrough. With the option of an added scope, you can take enemies out from a distance or just keep it up close and personal, performing some Wild West style plastic surgery. Whatever your preference, it won't let you down, and I think you'll find it a worthy addition to your collection. Next up, we're going to be looking at the Springfield, which is really the only competitor for the bolt action when it comes to a practical all-purpose rifle. It's got incredible stopping power and one of the best damage stats the game has to offer, also providing excellent range and accuracy along with it. Normally purchasable from a gunsmith early in the game for around $60 to $80, it's honestly pretty cheap when you consider what you're getting, but if you'd prefer to get it for nothing, you might want to consider waiting for a mission that pops up in Chapter 3, called Sodom Back to Gomorrah. After arriving in Valentine to commit the first player-controlled bank robbery in the game, you'll find a brand new Springfield Rifle placed in your inventory, assumed to be put there by Bill on the ride over there. Whatever the reason, you fortunately get to keep it once the mission concludes, and you can go about using it for the rest of the story. But if you want to get it earlier than that, and you don't want to pay any money, you might want to keep your eyes peeled for this common random encounter. Somewhere along your travels, you're likely to come across several unlucky individuals who seem to have a sexual attraction towards getting bitten by a snake. You might think that I'm overstating it, but seriously, despite how many times these guys get bitten, they just keep wandering out into the wilderness looking for more. Maybe the venom gives them a rush, maybe they're just masochists. I honestly don't know, but either way, you're going to want to go ahead and help them by validating their kink by sucking out the venom, or just, giving them a health potion. You can find them just about anywhere, but if you need a little bit of extra help, these three locations have proven to be incredibly reliable in the past. You'll then need to wait 1 or 2 days before coming to the nearest town that was in proximity to the snakebite, usually in Valentine, Rhodes, or Annisburg. Upon approaching the gunsmith, you'll find a couple of NPCs chatting about the close encounter, who will stop you in your tracks and thank you for the help you provided, offering up a free weapon from the catalogue inside the store. While there is certainly more expensive guns to get for nothing later on in the game, if you fancy getting yourself a solid rifle here and now without having to progress the story, this is a good way to go about it. The only real downside when comparing the Springfield Rifle to the bolt action is it can only carry 1 bullet at a time, forcing you to reload every single time you take a shot. But the reload time isn't nearly as bad as some of the heavy scope scoped rifle shown later in the video, and whether you're hunting or going on a rampage, you'll find it to be a very powerful and reliable weapon. The next gun we're going to be looking at is the Varmint Rifle, which is slightly different from the other weapons we've discussed so far. Not traditionally used for combat, this rifle is instead mostly used for hunting small to medium animals, often providing the best quality pelts and greatest ease of use when compared to the small game arrows on a bow. Don't get me wrong, with its high fire rate, this thing can actually shred during a firefight, if you know how to use it. But when it comes to thinning the local duck and rabbit populations, it's in a total league of its own. It can normally be bought from a gunsmith, where it's actually one of the cheapest rifles available, but for anyone on a tight budget, you can also get it for free with a nearby random encounter. Sometime when roaming through this part of the bayou, you'll likely hear a very loud scream coming from off in the distance. If you go across and investigate the noise, you'll likely come across a dead body floating in the swamp, marked by an X on your minimap. You'll also note that while the alligators clearly got the best of him, his existence wasn't completely in vain, as the poor sod will have dropped a Varmint Rifle by his side. Making sure to be careful of the nearby predators, make your way over to the body and collect the weapon before it gets washed away by the water. In my experience, this random encounter can be a little buggy, so be sure to save your game close to this location, clear out any interfering events in the local area, and reload if you can't get it to spawn. Now we're going to be discussing one of the long-distance masters, the rolling block rifle. This gun is an absolute beast, and is mostly used when wanting to accurately shoot at enemies from far away. It normally becomes available late in Chapter 2 during a mission called The Sheep and the Goats, during which John will ask for Arthur's assistance with a sheep rustling operation, offering to pay for a rolling block rifle out of his own pocket to help get the job done. Now honestly, if you plan on playing through the game in a linear fashion, I'd advise just waiting until this mission pops up and get the gun that way. It's free and you don't really have to wait that long. But if you want to get it at the start of Chapter 2 instead, you can do so during the mission by the name Exit Pursued by a Bruised Ego. That's the one where Arthur and Hosea go on a camping and hunting trip where they eventually end up getting intimidated by a jacked up Yogi Bear who's clearly gotten stuck into the steroid-laced honey. When you're done with that, you'll be given the option to have a rematch with the bear or return to camp with Hosea. Put your bruised ego aside for now and be sure to join Hosea back to Horseshoe Overlook. You'll need to go back together if you want to have a chance at collecting the rolling block rifle. When you get back to camp, you'll need to make sure to keep a close eye on Hosea's horse, because as soon as he gets off, you're going to want to try and ride alongside it. You obviously can't mount the horse once he's already been hitched, but for some reason, when it's on the move like this, you're given the option of jumping onto it, much like you would with any other NPC. Don't waste too much time though, you'll only get so many chances, and you'll also need to be mindful of the camp borders, because if you get too close, you'll be kicked off and you'll have to try again. But as long as you stay out of camp and keep a steady pace alongside it, you shouldn't have any problems claiming it for yourself and going on a little joyride. As you can see, when I pull the camera around, Hosea won't have removed the rolling block rifle that he was using during the mission, and it'll still be attached to his horse. You'll then want to ride a decent distance away from camp. There's no limit on how far you can go, and by doing this, you'll ensure a better chance of pulling off the trick without the horse running back before you've had a chance to complete it. Make sure to purchase dynamite from the fence in Emerald Ranch or Saint Denis before you start the mission, and then go ahead and pull it out for a scene that would have Peter crying in their Crocs. One well-placed piece of dynamite will do the trick, but be sure to have a few backups just in case you miss and need to try again. As soon as you've done that, you'll want to investigate the nearby area, where you'll hopefully find Hosea's rolling block rifle glimmering in the sun, just waiting to be taken. Unlike the rare rolling block rifle, this one is fully customizable, with all of the usual upgrades and cosmetics available over at any gunsmith. The final weapon we're going to be looking at is the much-loved Carcano Rifle, which is pretty much the only competition for the rolling block when it comes to long-distance shooting, and in comparison, it does have slightly lower damage and range, but it makes up for it with a better fire rate and reload time. Normally available late in Chapter 6 from any gunsmith for the tidy sum of $190, this rifle would normally be of very little use with it coming into the game so late in the story. You also have the option of waiting for Goodbye Dear Friend in Chapter 6, where you'll be given a Carcano Rifle as a reward for completing the mission, but again, that's almost at the end of the game. Unfortunately though, you can get it as early as Chapter 4, and if you follow along with me, I'll show you how you can get it totally free of charge. During Chapter 4, you'll be presented with a side mission with Uncle, located just outside of the Shady Bell camp to the south of the map. Only available at night, you'll want to make sure to visit this location between the hours of midnight and 3 AM, where if it spawns, you'll see Uncle waiting here by the horse's hitching posts. Just like all of the other mission-based methods that I've shown in this video, make sure to save your game beforehand, just in case anything goes wrong and you want to try again. When you roll up on the target property, Uncle will instruct you to take out a couple of dopey drongos looking to steal the very cattle we came to rob ourselves. With there clearly being no honor amongst thieves, be sure to unleash your own brand of Wild West justice and take the two amateurs out of the equation. If you've seen my other best weapons video focusing on sidearms, you'll likely remember this as the location of the M1899 pistol, which is still working and has a chance of spawning on one of the two guys you just killed. It's one of the best guns in the entire game, and it costs over $300 when purchased from a shop, so it's definitely worth grabbing while you're here. The guy will have a chance of dropping the volcanic pistol instead, but if that happens, you can just reload your save and try again. But if you're ready to move on, you'll want to head over to the house where we'll be looking for the owner inside. There's a small chance that he might wake up if you make enough noise, but more often than not, you can sneak inside without being detected. Once you enter the front door, you'll want to immediately come into the first room on your left, where you'll find a man sleeping in his bed. Go over and take care of business, either taking him out with your gun or choosing the lost art of human-to-human contact by tenderly depriving his right to oxygen. The gun off to the side will of course be the Carcano Rifle, so be sure to grab that before making your way outside the property and finishing the mission. The stealth approach is really cool, but don't worry if you happen to wake him up before getting to his bedroom. He takes the rifle wherever he goes, and all you have to do is shoot him in the dome or knock him out before grabbing it. Overall, there's a solid selection of rifles available. Which one you pick will ultimately depend on your playstyle and the situation in which you need it. Whether you want to go guns blazing and tear them apart at close to mid-range, or go for the cold and calculated path of long-distance sniping, this game has got you covered. But if you found this video useful, tapping the like button would most certainly be appreciated. If you're new to the channel, be sure to go ahead and subscribe as well. And if you're interested in supporting my content directly, consider becoming a member of the channel, link in the description below. But until we meet again, you bunch of legends, I'm Red Nitrate, and I'll catch you on the next one.